Before you spend that quarter, take a closer look. Some Washington quarters are worth hundreds or even thousands, especially those with mint errors, silver content, or rare dates. From 1965 to the State Series, hidden gems are out there waiting to be found. Check your quarters. One small coin could be your next big payday. In 1972, the United States Mint was operating at full speed, striking millions upon millions of Washington quarters for everyday circulation. Most of those coins did their job without fanfare, jingling in pockets, feeding parking meters, and finding their way into countless cash registers across the country. But among that massive production run, a few coins turned out differently. These weren't ordinary quarters. They carried tiny mistakes, errors invisible to the casual eye but electrifying to collectors. And over the years, those 1972 Washington quarter-dollar error coins have grown into prized treasures, with some rare examples selling for anywhere between $62,000 and $148,110 depending on their rarity, condition, and error type. The Washington quarter has long been one of America's most iconic coins. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, it quickly became a cornerstone of U.S. coinage. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse shows Washington's profile, confident and composed, while the reverse features the regal bald eagle clutching arrows, a symbol of national strength and readiness. By 1972, the coin had transitioned fully from its earlier silver composition to the modern copper-nickel-clad version, making it a familiar piece of everyday life. Yet, even with modern technology and precise machinery, mistakes still crept into the minting process. And those mistakes, when they survived quality control, became extraordinary collectibles. The minting process is a marvel of engineering. Blank planchets are fed between dies under immense pressure, creating the detailed designs we see on coins. But when a die becomes misaligned, overused, or improperly engraved, the resulting coin can emerge with doubling, missing elements, or off-center images. Some 1972 quarters show clear examples of these errors. One of the most famous types is the double die error, where the coin's design appears slightly duplicated. This happens when the die itself receives multiple impressions that are not perfectly aligned, creating a ghostly doubling effect on the finished coin. Under magnification, collectors can see it clearly. The words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1972 appear doubled, giving the coin a distinctive and rare look that's immediately recognizable to seasoned eyes. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't perfectly seated during minting, causing Washington's portrait or the eagle on the back to appear shifted or partially missing. In extreme cases, these errors leave a blank crescent of metal where no design exists, a striking and valuable visual oddity. Another sought-after error involves die cracks, fine raised lines running across the coin where the die began to fracture under pressure. These cracks, though small, add character and uniqueness to each coin. Still, other errors include clipped planchets, where a small section of the coin's edge is missing because the blank was cut too close to another during production. Each of these flaws transforms an otherwise ordinary quarter into something exceptional. What makes these 1972 Washington quarter errors so captivating isn't just their rarity. It's the combination of artistry, history, and human imperfection they represent. The mint in the 1970s was a powerhouse of production, with hundreds of millions of coins leaving its presses every year. In that sea of identical pieces, a single coin with an anomaly stands out like a beacon. For collectors, finding one of these errors feels like unearthing buried treasure. It's a reminder that even the most controlled systems can still produce a miracle of chance. Over time, collectors have come to revere the 1972 quarter error coins for their beauty and scarcity. Double die obverse examples, in particular, have fetched staggering prices at auction, especially when preserved in near-perfect condition. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in authenticating and certifying these coins, giving buyers confidence in their investment. The difference between an unverified coin and one with an official grading can be enormous. A mint state example with strong doubling and brilliant luster can sell for $62,000 or more, while the most dramatic and pristine pieces have been known to climb toward that incredible $148,110 mark. These prices reflect more than just metal and design. They reflect rarity, demand, and the passion that drives the numismatic world. Collectors are drawn to these coins not only for their financial potential but for their stories. Each error is a snapshot of a split second in the minting process, a record of the moment when precision faltered. For the mint, such coins were flaws. But for collectors, they became art, accidents that carry beauty in their imperfection. It's this paradox that fuels fascination. A mistake, preserved in metal, becomes an object of obsession and desire. Owning one is like holding a piece of history that shouldn't exist, a physical embodiment of chance. The journey of discovery is another part of what makes these coins so special. Many remarkable finds have been made by ordinary people. Someone might be counting change at a gas station or sorting through old coins in a coffee can notice something odd. A thicker letter, a shadowed number, or a strange texture. That moment of curiosity can lead to an incredible revelation. Imagine realizing that a coin you've had for decades, one you thought was worth 25 cents, could actually be worth tens of thousands of dollars. That sense of awe and disbelief is something every collector dreams of experiencing. Error coins like the 1972 Washington Quarter also serve as teaching tools. They remind collectors of the importance of paying attention to details, of seeing beyond the surface. The most valuable finds often go unnoticed because people assume every coin is ordinary. Yet the key to discovering something extraordinary lies in observation. Serious collectors often use magnifiers, digital microscopes, and specialized lighting to examine coins from every angle. They look for telltale signs like doubling on the date, misaligned edges, or unusual coloration. With patience and persistence, what starts as a hobby can turn into an incredible discovery. The world of coin collecting has evolved, but the thrill remains timeless. Every auction that features a high-grade 1972 error quarter sends waves through the numismatic community. Collectors debate, analyze, and speculate about how many of these coins might still be out there. The consensus? Probably very few. Most of the errors that slipped past inspection were likely spent and worn down before anyone noticed. That's what makes each surviving example so remarkable. A survivor of time, chance, and circulation. Beyond their value, these coins also carry cultural meaning. They connect generations. Grandparents who saved their change, parents who passed down old jars of coins, and children who rediscover them decades later. Each coin has a story, a lineage of hands and moments it's passed through. And when one of those coins turns out to be an error worth tens of thousands, that story gains a new chapter, one of discovery and wonder. For anyone hoping to find one, the best advice is simple. Look closely. Examine every coin you come across. Check the date, inspect the lettering, and study the surfaces carefully. The signs of a valuable error are often subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Even today, undiscovered treasures still sit unnoticed in circulation, hiding in plain sight. The next great 1972 Washington Quarter error could be resting in someone's old coin jar, waiting for the right pair of eyes to find it. The 1972 Washington Quarter dollar error isn't just a collector's dream. It's a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry immense worth. It's proof that perfection isn't the only path to value. Sometimes, imperfection is what makes something truly special. These coins are more than currency. They are fragments of American history, pieces of art shaped by chance, and symbols of the endless human fascination with rarity. And for those few who are lucky enough to hold one in their hands, especially one authenticated and preserved in mint state condition, that little piece of metal could be worth far more than its 25-cent face value. Could be worth as much as $148,110. A staggering figure for a coin most people would never give a second glance. That's the magic of numismatics. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It teaches us to look closer, to see value where others don't, and to appreciate the beauty of mistakes. In 1987, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington Quarter dollar coins, each intended to be an exact, uniform piece of American currency. These quarters were meant to look the same, shiny, consistent, and ordinary. But, as collectors know all too well, even the most routine production runs can hold secrets. Somewhere in that year's sea of silver-colored quarters, a few pieces emerged that were far from ordinary. They bore the subtle yet powerful marks of minting errors, flaws that transformed a 25-cent coin into a numismatic marvel worth tens of thousands of dollars. Today, the 1987 Washington Quarter with rare minting errors can command jaw-dropping prices, ranging anywhere from $49,000 to $122,000, depending on its type, rarity, and pristine condition. What began as a simple piece of pocket change has, for a lucky few, become an astonishing treasure. The Washington Quarter has always held a special place in American coinage. First introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, its design became a national staple. The obverse features the dignified profile of the nation's first president, created by sculptor John Flanagan, while the reverse in 1987 still carried the classic eagle perched proudly with outstretched wings. This design remained consistent for decades, a familiar sight in everyday commerce. But behind that consistency lay the potential for error, and the 1987 quarters are a perfect example of how a minor mistake in the minting process can give birth to something extraordinary. One of the most talked about and highly valued 1987 quarter errors is the off-center strike. During minting, a blank metal disc called a planchet is placed between two dies. If it's not perfectly centered when struck, part of the design can be missing, leaving a blank crescent on one side. The more dramatic the off-centering, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains fully visible. Some 1987 quarters show George Washington's face pushed so far to one side that part of the word liberty, or in God we trust, vanishes into the rim. Others show the reverse eagle only half present, creating a ghostly and fascinating image. These off-center 1987 quarters have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars, and in top condition, their prices can climb toward the upper end of the spectrum, reaching as high as $122,000 for truly exceptional examples with dramatic visual appeal. Then there are double-struck 1987 Washington quarters, which are among the most visually stunning mint errors. In these rare cases, the coin is struck once but not properly ejected from the press before being struck again. The second strike lands at a different angle, creating overlapping images of Washington's profile or the eagle on the reverse. Some double-struck examples show parts of both designs offset or rotated, a captivating mistake that instantly catches the eye. These are among the most coveted 1987 error coins because no two are alike, and their appearance feels almost surreal, like a coin in motion frozen in time. Collectors prize such coins not only for their rarity but also for the sheer artistry of the accident. Depending on the sharpness of the doubling and the coin's overall preservation, these have brought prices of $49,000 to $122,000 in auctions where eager collectors battle to own one-of-a-kind pieces. Another remarkable 1987 error is the clipped planchet. This occurs during the creation of the coin blanks themselves, when the metal sheet from which the blanks are punched overlaps or shifts slightly. The resulting blank ends up with a missing crescent-shaped portion, literally a clip. When struck with the normal Washington quarter design, that missing edge remains, creating a coin with an unmistakable, irregular silhouette. Collectors love these because they're so visually distinctive and easy to spot, even with the naked eye. Some 1987 clipped planchet quarters have clean, smooth edges at the missing spot, while others show a jagged texture that hints at the mechanical mishap behind it. These error coins tell the story of imperfection in mass production and have fetched thousands, even tens of thousands, depending on their size, sharpness, and condition. The broadstrike error is another fascinating variety from 1987. Normally, the metal collar around the coin prevents the metal from expanding outward during striking. But if that collar is missing or malfunctions, the coin spreads out wider than normal, losing its reeded edge and creating a stretched, flat appearance. It's still instantly recognizable as a quarter, but it looks almost as if it melted slightly outward. These broad-struck 1987 quarters are rare, and the visual distortion gives them a special charm among error collectors. Their value varies by how well-centered and clearly struck the design is, but in mint state condition, they can easily bring five-figure prices at auction. Perhaps the rarest and most valuable of all 1987 Washington quarter errors are those struck on the wrong planchet. This type of error occurs when a blank meant for another denomination, like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, accidentally finds its way into the coining press. Imagine a quarter design struck on a smaller, thinner dime planchet, resulting in a coin that's undersized but clearly carries Washington's image and partial inscriptions. These errors are among the most sensational because they defy expectations and are extremely hard to find. They also tend to attract not just quarter collectors, but serious error coin specialists and investors. Depending on the planchet used and the condition of the coin, these wrong planchet 1987 quarters have been known to reach astronomical figures, sometimes well over $100,000, placing them among the most coveted modern U.S. minting errors in existence. Collectors also seek out 1987 quarters with die cracks and cuds, errors that occur when the dies used to strike the coins begin to fail. Over time, the immense pressure of striking millions of coins causes small fractures or chips in the die's surface. When these damaged dies continue to strike new coins, they leave raised lines, blobs, or missing sections on the coins themselves. These can appear anywhere, across Washington's cheek, through the letters of United States of America, or near the eagle's wings. Each one is unique, a snapshot of the moment the mint's machinery began to wear out. Some collectors specialize entirely in these varieties, hunting for the most dramatic examples where entire parts of the design appear missing or distorted. What makes the 1987 Washington quarter errors particularly captivating is that they come from a time when modern minting technology was already highly refined. By the late 1980s, the U.S. Mint had decades of experience with automated production, laser-engraved dies, and tight quality control systems. In theory, such dramatic errors shouldn't exist, but they do. And that paradox is part of what gives them their incredible value. They are living proof that even in a world of machines and precision, chance and imperfection still find a way to slip through. For collectors, these coins are reminders that true rarity doesn't always come from age. It can emerge from unpredictability. The stories of discovery behind these 1987 quarters are just as intriguing as the coins themselves. Many of them were found not by professional collectors but by ordinary people. Someone checking pocket change, rolling coins from the bank, or inheriting a box of old quarters from a relative. Imagine the surprise of finding an off-center Washington staring back at you from a pile of spare change. That single moment can turn a casual glance into a small fortune. Some people have had their discoveries certified by PCGS or NGC, only to learn that the odd-looking quarter they found is worth tens of thousands. Others, after realizing what they have, hold on to them as family heirlooms, knowing they possess a piece of minting history. Condition plays a massive role in determining just how valuable one of these error coins can be. A circulated coin with scratches or wear may still bring a few $1,000s, but an uncirculated, high-grade specimen, especially one certified as an authentic mint error, can soar into the upper 5 figures or more. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that combine rarity, visual appeal, and a clear error that tells a story. Coins with strong eye appeal, bright luster, and sharp details are especially prized. The difference between a worn error coin and a mint state beauty can be the difference between $10,000 and $122,000 at auction. The 1987 Washington quarter error coins remind us that sometimes value lies not in perfection but in imperfection. They represent the moments when machinery faltered, when a die cracked, or when a blank was misfed, but rather than being failures, these moments became small masterpieces of chance. Every error coin is unique, a frozen moment in the endless rhythm of minting that somehow became something special. They stand as a testament to the unpredictable beauty of human and mechanical processes working together, and sometimes against each other. In 1967, the United States was in the middle of one of the most transformative decades in history. The air was filled with change, culturally, politically, and economically. People were marching for civil rights, exploring new frontiers in space, and experimenting with music that would define generations. Yet, amid all that social and cultural revolution, something small but significant was happening at the U.S. Mint. Coins, the everyday change that people rarely noticed, were quietly going through their own evolution. Among the many coins struck that year, the 1967 Washington quarter stands out, not because of its design, but because of its mistakes. And some of those rare errors have transformed ordinary-looking quarters into priceless treasures, with a few examples valued between $64,000 and $144,000, depending on the nature of the flaw and the condition of the coin. The 1967 Washington quarter came at a time of transition for American coinage. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint had stopped using silver in quarters and dimes, moving instead to a copper-nickel composition due to rising silver prices and public hoarding of silver coins. The new clad quarters, made of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core, were meant to be the future. Modern, practical, and cost-effective. But the switch didn't come without problems. The Mint was still refining its processes, and errors slipped through the cracks, leaving behind a small number of coins that defied perfection. The 1967 Washington Quarter was minted without any mint marks because, from 1965 through 1967, the Mint had suspended mint marks to discourage people from hoarding coins based on their origin. This makes it impossible to know exactly where each coin came from: Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, but that mystery only adds to their allure. The Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year, yet only a handful contained errors significant enough to catch collectors' attention decades later. Among the most valuable errors found on the 1967 quarter are double strikes and off-center strikes. A double strike happens when a coin fails to eject properly from the press and gets struck again, resulting in overlapping images. Sometimes the second strike lands perfectly, creating only a faint doubling effect, but in other cases, it's completely off, showing two sets of George Washington's face or two dates partially stamped onto one coin. The more dramatic and visually clear the error, the higher the value. There are known examples of 1967 double-struck Washington quarters selling for well over $75,000, and some near-perfect, visually stunning pieces even approaching six figures at auction. Off-center strikes are another fascinating mistake from that year. These occur when the blank planchet isn't aligned correctly under the dies, causing part of the design to be missing. The coin might show only a portion of Washington's head or have the date nearly cut off at the rim. The most desirable off-center errors are those where about 50% of the design is missing but the date is still visible, because that balance of visual impact and identifiable detail makes them incredibly attractive to collectors. A 1967 quarter with such an off-center strike in mint state condition can easily fetch between $64,000 and $144,000, depending on its preservation and appearance. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, coins struck on the wrong type of blank. During this era, the Mint often struck different denominations simultaneously, and occasionally, a blank intended for a dime or a penny found its way into the quarter presses. The result was a smaller, thinner coin with an incomplete design and strange proportions. A 1967 Washington quarter struck on a dime planchet, for example, would weigh less and have a noticeably smaller diameter. These pieces are exceptionally rare, and when authenticated by major grading services like PCGS or NGC, they have been known to command prices in the $100,000 range due to their sheer rarity and visual intrigue. Another remarkable type of 1967 error involves die clashes and die breaks. A die clash happens when the two dies, used to stamp the obverse and reverse designs, strike each other without a planchet in between. This transfers faint, mirrored impressions of the design from one die onto the other. When the next coin is struck, traces of these ghost-like images appear on its surface, such as faint outlines of Washington's profile on the reverse or parts of the eagle's wings on the obverse. These clash marks give the coin an eerie, one-of-a-kind appearance that excites collectors. The more visible and dramatic the clash, the higher its value. A strong die clash from 1967 can push a coin's price well beyond $60,000 in today's market. Die breaks, on the other hand, occur when the die develops a crack or chip from overuse. When that damaged die continues to strike coins, it leaves raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface. These features are often called cuds when they appear along the rim. A 1967 Washington quarter with a large, dramatic cud is extremely desirable because it clearly shows a major minting flaw. Some examples with massive die breaks have sold for prices upward of $80,000. Especially when combined with high-grade and full detail point, one of the most intriguing aspects of the 1967 Washington quarter story lies in the human element. Many of these rare errors went unnoticed for years. After all, quarters were just change, something people used daily without ever examining closely. Imagine how many of these coins passed from one hand to another, used to buy candy, coffee, or a newspaper, completely unnoticed for their hidden value. It's only in recent decades, with the rise of coin collecting communities online and professional grading services, that some of these incredible discoveries have come to light. There's a real sense of magic in those discoveries. One collector in California found a 1967 Washington quarter with a major off-center strike while sorting through a box of old coins inherited from his grandfather. The coin was authenticated and later sold at auction for nearly $120,000, changing his life overnight. Another collector came across a double-struck 1967 quarter in a roll of mixed coins purchased from a flea market for under $10. That coin later fetched over $90,000. These stories highlight the thrill of numismatics, the fact that life-changing treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. What makes these coins even more compelling is their historical context. The late 1960s was a period when the mint was under immense pressure to produce billions of coins quickly to meet public demand. Coin shortages were common, and the rush to keep up with circulation often led to relaxed quality control. That pressure created the perfect conditions for mistakes to happen, and while most of those flawed coins were eventually caught and melted down, a small handful slipped through, surviving to this day as witnesses to a time when the system wasn't as automated or precise as it is now. Collectors often say that the 1967 Washington quarter represents a bridge between old and new, the last era of somewhat imperfect mass production before modern technology tightened the mint standards. That's part of why error coins from this year command such high premiums. They're tangible proof of a transition, a glimpse into a manufacturing process that still relied heavily on human oversight. Even today, new examples of 1967 error quarters occasionally surface, often from estate collections or inherited coin jars. Each discovery reignites the excitement in the collecting community. People examine every detail: the luster, the strike, the alignment. When a coin shows that unmistakable sign of something gone wrong at the mint, it instantly becomes more than just currency. It becomes a story, a mystery, a piece of history. Experts recommend that if you have a 1967 Washington quarter that looks unusual in any way, whether it's slightly off-center, shows doubling in the letters, or even feels lighter or heavier than normal, you should get it professionally graded. Even subtle errors can dramatically increase a coin's worth once verified. Some seemingly minor variations have turned out to be rare minting anomalies worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. That there's something poetic about how imperfection can lead to such incredible value. The 1967 Washington quarter error coins remind us that even a government institution striving for perfection can produce unexpected beauty through its flaws. Each coin tells its own story of machinery, metal, timing, and chance. And for collectors, that story is priceless in the end. That's what makes coin collecting so captivating. The idea that the smallest, most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets. The 1967 Washington quarter is proof that even the tiniest imperfections can create a legacy of value, beauty, and wonder that endures long after the coin leaves the mint.